Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mark and I thank you so much for coming by today. I'm starting a new series on my channel. It'll be fun, I think. It's gonna be fun for me and I hope it's fun for you, and it'll give you some new ideas of things to try. And this is alternative art options. There's tons of this stuff out there, but I wanna try things that I've never tried before and see how they work. You can join in on the fun and try it yourself at some point if you want, or just see how it goes. Some of you may know from my other videos that I do a lot of juicing. So the first thing I'm gonna try is painting with beet juice. This is going to be awesome. I am so excited to try this. I've actually never done this before, so this is really good. It's beets and lemon and ginger and carrots, and I did put a little jalapeno in there for some kick. This is really good stuff, and this is most of my meals during the day. So come on along and I'll show you what happens when we turn the nutritional beverage here into an alternative art option. Okay, so I'm going to start this project like any other watercolor project or inking project and have a water glass, and this is the bigger version of it. These are both recycled candle glasses from Glade. I use Glade candles in my studio just because they have this cashmere woods that I really like. They make great water glasses for cleaning brushes and so forth, so I keep them around and I recycle them as much as I can. Sometimes I have to get rid of them because they're just get too old, but you can see the foam at the top of the juice glass, so I'm going to use this pipette and go into the glass and grab out some of that juice. Now if I mix this up, you'll be able to see on the bottom here is some pulp. That's probably from the lemon or maybe from the ginger. Just a good reminder that this is organic material, so got to keep my brushes clean after I'm done. This is my green handbook journal. It's a Travelogue journal. I adore these books. I absolutely love them. I have a whole bunch of them. I've reviewed them before in another video, but these are my general go-to sketchbooks. They handle wet mediums very well, and pen and ink, pencil, everything, so they're great. So I'm going to draw some basic shapes here so I can lay in the first wash and see what happens. And what I'm finding is, as you can see, the juice is behaving very much like watercolor. It's transparent and it's very thin, which is nice, but it has a really, really good color. That pink color is really, really sweet. And as you can see here, it looks like what's happening is granulation. You can kind of see it in here. Let me tilt it. And that's something you might find with a higher end Schmincke or Daniel Smith paint, but that's not actually granulation. That's actually organic matter from the juicing. It's stuff that got through the screen in the juicing process. And I use a Breville juicer, which is pretty old, so it might have some flawed areas that the organic matter can get through. And it's fine. It's just fiber. It's just little pieces of the vegetables, and it's actually good for your digestion. So it's a win-win. Yay! So here I put a little bit of a heavier layer on that cube shape, and I'm going to put in a heavy layer here on this. I'm going to make a sphere out of this. I'm going to see if I can give it a little highlight just to give some perspective to it. And again, the color's fabulous. I wish my studio light was a little bit more between warm and cool. It's on the warmer side. I rely on the sunlight for natural light, but it's really gray today. Now this is a steel pen nib. It's a 512 pen nib, so it's got a good thick, it produces a good thick line. And what I'm really happy about is just how dark the juice is on the pen. It's really producing a nice, thick, heavy line, almost like a one of the Statler markers or something. But it's really thin, it's really fine, and it's actually better than I expected. So I can pen and ink these shapes in over here, and after I'm done, adding some details, little shadows here, you can go back into these. Now I'm going to just splatter it just to I'm going to try some different things. Let's try some unique things. So I'll do a little splatter here, see how this works, kind of pull that splatter piece out, see how that looks. Just trying some experiments to see how this beet juice is going to hold up. Now, if I take a Q-tip here, I can try and see how this will hold up as far as not using a real brush. I mean, I could do finger paints and that would be fine, but I'm going to use this Q-tip instead because I don't want to get any more beet juice on my hands. This stuff stains. That's another thing you got to be careful of. Beet juice stains everything. So I really like the Q-tip effect. It soaks up unwanted areas, but it also leaves sort of this really thick organic looking line, which is really nice. Now I'm going to add in a glaze over the original sketches that I did. Glazing is basically a fancy term for layering. So I'm going to layer in another, coat of this paint on there. And you can see that because there's a dried undercoat beneath it, it's really popping out, it's beautiful. It's a really great pink color. I wouldn't call it an opera rose. I would call it maybe just an average magenta or a bright magenta. But if I was going to paint with just right off the beet, it would be a lot darker if I was just going right straight from a cut beet. And you can see as if I wash over these inked in areas, the transparency is great. And I really like the effect over the I want to call it pen and ink, but it's juice and ink. But the effect of washing in over the pen and ink area, juice and ink area, is really effective. So you could do a whole drawing with the dip pens and then wash in later, and it would be highly effective. I was really surprised to see this. And again, that sort of organic granulation effect is nice because it'll keep some texture. You can see on the square shape where it's dried that organic matter granulation kind of blended in after a while once it dried. So, it's not like it's going to stay behind, but it does add a nice little texture to it. So just adding some different techniques, pulling off some of the color with the brush, a thirsty brush here, which means it has no liquid in it, and just trying to see what this thing looks like. And this was a really good experiment, and this was a fun way to test it before doing an actual painting with it. Let's take a quick break from juice and have some coffee. What I did was I set up a drawing here to give this sort of a practical, real-world, trial to see how this would go over with a real painting. And this is just a barn sketch with some trees and a little dirt road and stuff like that, just to see how this might hold up, in a plein air situation, or if you're out in the field or just working from a photo reference or something. So I'm going to lay down a basic wash. Now, one thing I will say about this kind of a painting is it is an organic matter. Like I said, it's vegetable juice, so it will break down over time. One, you want to clean your brushes if you're going to paint with something like this. You don't want to keep that organic matter on your brushes because the proteins and the enzymes and stuff or whatever would just probably not very good for your brush. Also, the painting itself is going to break down. Just like a vegetable will spoil, so will the paint in the book. Now, it's not going to spoil and smell bad or anything like that, but it will discolor. This bright pink will start to fade and turn to brown. Even in a closed book, it's going to break down. But if you were to leave it open to the air, it's going to oxidize and, it's going to change the color and sort of the tone of the picture, which I'm looking forward to that because it gives it a whole different dimension and it changes, as I get older, it's going to get older. So I laid in the first wash here and I'm going back in. Now, the experiment I did prior to the coffee break with the pen and ink and so forth taught me that I get a really dark line from this juice using, I want to call it pen and ink, but using the dip pen. So going into a real world perspective, now I know that this dip pen is great for drawing and outlining. I can use that to my benefit in, a real world application. So I'm just going to draw over this like I might with, black ink in, just a regular watercolor painting or brown ink or something. And I can add in some, cool branches and just grass and textures and things like that. Again, I'm not getting too fancy. This is just a quick demo sketch so you can see what I'm doing. But for me as an experiment, it's really successful and I'm really enjoying just what's happening with it. So it's actually better than I thought. I wasn't expecting a really heavy-duty painting from this, but it's coming out really cool. But so like I said, as the days, weeks, years go forward, this painting is going to change, as will my life will change. And, it's going to change with me, whereas some colors and some paints and some products kind of stay the same. So this will be fun to see what happens to it maybe like a year from now and where it'll be, just kind of like life. It'll be fun to see where things will end up a year from now. But so now I'm just dabbing off some of these colors just to show you the finished piece, and not so bad. I'm pretty happy with it. Now I took this, this is a generic water brush. It's a Chisel water brush. I got these at Barnes & Noble's a while ago, and I use them a couple of times, but they're not my favorites, so I just keep them as my kind of experimental, water brushes. So I'm going to try and see what happens with this, where it's going to be a constant flow of the juice. You can see once you squeeze it, the juice comes right out. So you have a constant flow instead of, you know, the brush kind of running out of the juice. It's going to have a constant flow of juice. And what is that like? And you can see here, you know, it stays consistent, it stays heavy, and it doesn't dry super quick either. So I'm sure if I use like an Arches paper or something, it might dry a little quicker. But, you know, that was a good experiment. Didn't really do much. But in a real world sort of application, again, might be good for something like clouds or just doing a basic wash in the background. So you can use this with a variety of tools and a variety of options, you know, dip pens, water brushes, paint brushes, Q-tips, whatever you like. But it's a great fun experiment. If you have kids, you might want to cut a beet in half, give them a piece of paper and let them use their fingers, you know, to use the juice for that kind of a purpose. And it might be a fun project for kids. But you can see this is the final project. And I was really glad I tried this experiment. Thank you so much for watching and joining in today. I hope you've subscribed below. If not, please do, and I'll bring you more content. This is the first in the series, and I look forward to bringing you more. I hope it was fun for you. It was great for me. Thanks, and I'll catch up with you soon. God bless. I couldn't reach the straw. Cheers.